Namaskar. Welcome to Daily Global Insights with Sree and Sree, episode number 186. Today is June 21st, Monday, and here are the news items from the world over. So we start with the United States. Biden hails 300 millionth vaccine shot in 150 days and says that more needs to be done. White House, though, is unlikely to meet its goal of 70% vaccinated with one dose at least by July 4th. Sridharji, why this slowdown now?
There is reluctance on the part of some of the Americans to be vaccinated. I think that's the cause. There's plenty of vaccines, plenty of distribution points. I have to say it has been, the execution has been almost flawless. The rollout of the vaccine, they're progressively rolled out. So it's just a reluctance of the people to be vaccinated, just as the reluctance of the people to wear the masks.
And mayhem ensues as Antifa converges on Western Conservative Summit in Denver, Colorado. So now Antifa is going after all these conventions where there could be Conservative Party meetings. So there is anarchy on one side. There is an attempt to destroy property. Now, this is a new dimension it seems to have acquired, sir.
I think what we are witnessing is provocative, deliberate, and intentional acts of putting pressure, threats, and coercive tactics. This is one of the reasons probably is, if you all know a gentleman by name Andy Ngo, NGO, who writes extensively in Epoch Times and other magazines. He has been a vocal critique of Antifa, BLM, these movements. He has covered quite extensively. So it's a whole lot of people who were at this event. So they expressed their displeasure. We have seen this even during the last October, September last year during the Trump campaigns, how they stopped and heckled the Republican voters from getting into stadiums, etc., etc. So this is a tactics. How long this will be sustained? One never knows. This is probably one of the reasons why they want all the police forces to be defunded and deactivated. So in the process, that it is hell for scatter for everybody. In some states, it's not the case everywhere, but in some states, this lawlessness seems to be prevalent.
In the city of San Francisco, there is a Walgreens on Post and Fell Street. This is right in the downtown of San Francisco. There's a video that is doing the rounds on Twitter and other social media where you can see somebody stealing stuff from the store. He has a bike. He has biked into the store. He just picking it up and putting it in a black garbage bag. And then when the security tries to stop him, he elbows him and he just drives off. And it turns out that up to $900 of theft, the police don't want to even take a look at it. Please let that sink in. Is this what we are headed for in the future? I am really, really concerned as a citizen of the United States. I don't know about you, sir. Let's move on to the next one, which is equally bad. Portland Police Union blames officials who demonized cops for mass riot squad resignation. So looks like a riot squad in toto has resigned now?
Some key members, one person was indicted. It's a number which ranges from 50 to 100. Which effectively, when you have riots, they send this squad in from a disbursement point of view, and the police does what you call as the enforcement part of it. One of the people was indicted in Portland, so that in turn resulted in mass resignation of people, which is to say, we are doing our job, and if we have done something wrong, you can punish just as what happens as part of the normal legal process. But if we are going to be indicted, while we're doing a job, then I don't think we should be doing. So let people do what they need to do. So there is a growing resentment. Even in some states, I've heard marshals expressing discontent and dissent at the way the governments are enacting programs which discourages people from enforcement of law.
And Biden is diverting funds from Americans to give hotel rooms to illegal aliens, alleged House Republicans. Again, viewers, we have been saying this for a while now. So the lot of taxpayer money is being diverted to house illegal aliens who probably are now spread all across the country, and it's going to be almost impossible to, assuming that they don't get the permission to stay in the country, to deport afterwards. This whole thing is really, really regrettable. I don't know, sir, what are your thoughts? Is this going to take bigger form and shape? Will the Democrats in Congress also join them, at least those whose elections are on the line?
Look, at this stage, as things stand, there seems to be very little dissent from the Democrats. You have seen it in the most recently passed two bills. There's good amount of money was stuck inside for sending overseas. There's a good chunk of money that was set aside for repatriation, settlement of illegal. Now they're called as legally crossing legally aspiring citizens crossing borders. We have seen buses, we have seen centers, we have seen them being airported, using airports, being ferried to different cities. We have seen crimes, we have seen them coming in with no vaccines. We have seen some instances vaccine prioritization. There's also an agency that's been appointed to basically look after and administer the process of locating them in hotels and paying the hotel bills, etc., etc. So the question is, this whole infrastructure bill is stuck because of three specific issues. One is climate. Second is the amount of money that is set aside for the surge that is happening. And the third is some amount of money that is going overseas. I don't want to repeat mentioning the same names. The infrastructure itself is $549 billion. They were generous to stretch it to about 1 trillion. Whereas the proposal on the table is 2.125 trillion. So you can imagine the amount of money. Forget the 1, 2, 3, 4 stimulus. Look at the amount of money that is being thrown out. So it's very, very sad, but there seems to be no dissent coming out.
And American Airlines is canceling hundreds of flights through mid-July due to labor shortages. We had mentioned this before. People don't want to come out and work. And Sridharji, this is now playing out in real life.
It is. I think that the labor shortage is acute. Basically, people don't want to come and work. Some, especially those who are in the, there's a lot of logistics staff who work. Probably they're all receiving, very healthy unemployment benefits, which means without doing much work, you can receive money. If you happen to be in some of the states where this unemployment benefit still is received from the federal grants and extended. Some of the states have said they will not be receiving and offering it. Then, on the contrary, they're going to offer incentives to rejoin work.
And now let's take a look at global news. The Biden administration and its international partners must wake up and rethink negotiations with Iran, Israel's new Prime Minister Naftali Bennett said on Monday. So now action is beginning to heat up, a new government in place in Israel, but in terms of foreign policy, little has changed, hasn't it?
Nothing has changed. I think that the Naftali will slowly assert his right. He's far more stringent in terms of law and order and enforcement is concerned. So I think that he is making he is telling the Biden administration, hey, can you smell the food? And if you can't smell the food, you better wake up, because the reason is, and get the nostrils going, because this is going to pose existential threat to the state of Israel.
And should we call Naftali Israel's Yogi? Give us your thoughts on comment section and let us know, because it all points to a more extreme right, more right wing person now assuming the helms of the government in Israel. We'll see. Israel's outgoing president Reuven Rivlin will be meeting President Biden at White House on the 28th of June and will highlight the enduring partnership between Israel and US. So Israel is a full-fledged democracy, just like United States and India, and there's going to be a change in the president also, and that's what is playing out now. But a president is like a figurehead, isn't he?
is a figurehead. It's just more Naftali is probably tied up with coalition and his very small team focused on the domestic policies. He's also likely to meet the president of the United States. But the prime minister is, he's busy with tending to the domestic matters. Also, he's on a razor-thin majority, seat of one. So all his focus is around preserving the government and maybe his prime ministership for a few more days. That seems to be his priority, and he will meet the president in due course. So I think that, as you rightly said, this is a ceremonial, but also probably is bringing a message from Naftali and the people of Israel.
And the Israeli Defense Forces destroy Syrian outpost used by Hezbollah 150 meters from the border, the first strike under Prime Minister Naftali Bennett. So there is action going on again on some of these Hezbollah units. For our viewers' sake, so there was problem in Gaza, which is completely under Israeli occupation, or it's in Israel. It's a part of Israel. Let's put it that way. No occupation, nothing. Part of Israel. So is West Bank. Now this is a slightly different area, isn't it? This is in Syria.
Yeah, it's the Syrian border, which is where the other surges happen, and sometimes, more often than not, the rockets fire. That's the Hezbollah from the Lebanese side and the Syrian side. And both Lebanon and Syria have taken punitive hits from Israel. It is that border post, which is right adjacent to, not too far outside of the perimeter of Israel, which took the hit. And I think, Naftali is delivering the message, which is to say, we're coming after you around whichever the points of vulnerability, as far as Israel is concerned, we'll make sure that those vulnerabilities are addressed.
And Taiwan withdraws 7 officials from Hong Kong, citing unfavorable circumstances. So now, we know that Hong Kong is becoming or being forcibly merged into mainland China. And now we are beginning to see the reverberations of such a move, isn't it?
It is. I think that there's not much details, but the Taiwan cited these 7 personnel who do the liaison and other types of work in Hong Kong. By way of coordination, their life was made very difficult because right now Hong Kong is fully under the control of the CCP. The council of the Hong Kong Council, the re-elected council is, there are no democratic members. So virtual Chinese usurp. No wonder that they are receiving problems. And so Taiwan says, goodbye, I'll deal with, I have enough countries to work with, and let me see how I'll deal with China, with Hong Kong in due course. But I don't want any of my people suffering.
In an interesting development, the top Chinese nuclear power expert has committed suicide. So what do you think happened?
Dr. Zhang Zhijian is a 58-year-old nuclear scientist, is a professor. He has deputy principal or vice principal status at the Harbin Engineering University, or HEU as it is called. The HEU is associated with a number of nuclear research and nuclear programs. Dr. Zhang is also a CCP member. There's lots of things that have been coming out which says that there is a close coordination with the PLA and possibly weaponization program. All you can say is the details are not known and murder is ruled out and there is no suspicion. He just went up to the top of a building and decided to parachute his way or non-parachute his way. He fell down and he died. This is the official report. But when you add lots of things under the overarching circumstances as well as the connectivity, one can assume that that there is some pressure, collusion, whatever it is that is coming out, and they have not, the police have not, the investigating officers have not given a reason for a suicide. But when you look at all the work that is going on in HEU plus its connectivity to the PLA, you can draw your own inference based on what you have also seen with the Wuhan Institute of Virology, or what we call as the Wuhan lab, is one more episode.
And the Chinese regime says that a Wuhan lab scientist should be given a Nobel Prize. Nobel Committee, who knows? They may have members in the committee too. Nobody knows.
Well, I will not be surprised because, China, as I said, is now taking the is upping the ante in terms of all the stuff that is coming out against them around this, COVID or Wuhan lab. So now, what better way the CCP to stand up and make a public statement? We should be, thanking the Wuhan lab scientists, and maybe they deserve a Nobel Prize because all these vaccines are coming out because, of the work that we have done. So that could be, their posturing or position, notwithstanding the fact it has caused damage of immense proportions.
Biden-Putin summit puts pressure on China, experts opine. I'm hearing two stories from this summit meeting, Sridharji. One side says that China is feeling the pressure and it was mouthing off here and there, the usual stuff. But the other side, I'm also hearing that after the meeting, Biden government has imposed even more sanctions on Russia. Which part is true, or is that there is truth on both sides?
First and foremost, sanctions continue on. That's the truth. Sanctions against Russia continue. But sanctions has not yielded results against Russia. Okay, that's equally also true. Now, Jake Sullivan came out and said, Biden did not give an inch. He may not have communicated, but we were at the meeting, he did not concede an inch. That's the government position, which probably is true. Whereas Putin is told the show, this is what happens in a democracy. He was given a free platform. He was given an NBC interview. So he went blasted off even before he could meet. Why is this summit unnecessary? It's not important. It is not timely. It's not relevant. And, what is my view? Biden is just a fake. And, his macho image is incorrect. So he's trying to make more than what he is himself, and we know how to deal with him. So when you have this type of projection coming out, and when a platform is offered to him, so naturally the PR machine works very heavily. But as far as the reality is concerned, Russia will continue to do what it has done, and the United States will continue to respond what it is. The only blunder, if I have to put on Biden, is he should not have gone public with, I gave them 12 items of infrastructure which is off limits. Instead, he could have stated, hey, we discussed, and there's a number of areas which we believe is off target and where we will take disproportionate action, something along those lines. So much of the criticism is coming as a result of that.
And President Biden is going to be meeting the Afghan President Ashraf Ghani and Mr. Abdullah. If you remember, one of the elections that concluded a few years ago, both these gentlemen were deadlocked in a heat, and I think the U.S. and the rest of the West had to step in and say that one becomes the president, the other one shall be, deputy president or something like that. So what is going on in your opinion in Afghanistan, sir? Because we are also hearing that one of the top Special Forces commander was brutally killed along with the entire unit by the Taliban.
Well, I think the meeting is obviously to discuss some of these matters. Mr. Abdullah is supposed to be a human rights coordinator on behalf of the Afghan government or counselor. And Biden is trying to give audience and time to Mr. Ghani to say, look, we are withdrawing, give us an assessment, we will try and do what we need to do to address your situation. That seems to be the agenda. But all the things that you alluded to are true. This is going to be an open slather. There is a number of people, vested interests, who are interested. Effectively, United States was paying a very heavy price as the policeman standing between, the bad boys and, people who are trying to be good boys and girls and make a normal living. But not much progress has been made. Nowhere in Afghanistan there is security without the deterrence of the U.S. armed forces present. But how long a person can guard a country? So therefore, what exactly is going to be the outcome? One never knows. But it's also equally important that he, as a president now, President Biden, has to extend the courtesy to meet a country which has been under US care, for now many, many years.
And Europe opens its borders to international visitors, signaling the end of wave 2 and progress in vaccinating a good cross section of people. Does this mean that travel will start happening between all other countries to Europe soon, sir?
At least, definitely, the cross-Atlantic corridor is getting open. US to Europe, Europe to US is going to be open. That's a very big corridor, as you know. Europe to Asia is another big corridor. I don't think that is opening as yet. Pretty soon, perhaps Japan. Perhaps Japan.
And Chinese State Security Vice Minister Dong Jingwei would be the highest level defector in the history of People's Republic. This is still breaking information. We will keep you posted on this. Sridharji, if you want to add something, please feel free to do so.
Well, I think the defection itself is quite amazing. They came to Hong Kong, and from Hong Kong they seem to have made their way into United States. It'll be interesting to observe what is the new piece of information that they're going to glean from this defection. But it's a senior figure. I gather there's other senior figures who are also interested in the defection. We have been saying this, that there is an underlying issue around the Xi Jinping presidency, and how that comes out on the political front is one. But the more critical, what is the new piece of information that on Wuhan that we're going to learn that we don't know already, and that has not been either declassified or that is still in the process or tying the various knots or various dots, as the case may be, we'll soon know.
And let's take a look at India news now. And we are looking at, first of all, India's abstaining from voting on the UN General Assembly resolution against the Myanmar military junta, citing lack of consultations with neighboring nations and other regional nations. Sir, India is the big country here. It should be telling the other neighboring nations like this is what we are going to do. But instead, India chose to abstain. I'm trying to understand the mindset here. I failed. What's your thought, sir?
My thought is India is a country which respects protocols. It's not the question of whether India is big or small. Myanmar is part of ASEAN. So when you join ASEAN, you are bound by certain rules and regulations. And first and foremost, responsibility for resolving Myanmar sits with ASEAN. Now, to that extent, both we have covered in several DGI programs, both Thailand and Indonesia have been taking the lead in a process whereby that they should resolve this without making this into a global affair. That has been the attempts that are going on. To that extent, the leader of the junta met with either the prime minister or the president or some senior leader both in Thailand and Indonesia. So what India is saying is that there is a process in progress. So therefore, there's a bunch of people who have brought this together. So we're not just going to vote one way or the other way. Let that issue move on. So it's like saying, what will India do on, there's a whole world opinion on China, on human rights violation. What are we doing? Nobody is doing anything about it. So what India is saying is this is a General Assembly resolution which has come in, but which has not factored in the effort that is going on and the consultations that is going on within the ASEAN. And ASEAN has very clearly stated that this is an ASEAN problem and must be resolved. So I think it has followed the due protocol. So I don't think ASEAN knows.
The Quad would be dead without India, expert opine. And Indian Navy and EU naval forces conduct joint naval drills off the Gulf of Aden. So this Quad thing, Biden's entry into the world scene sort of tamped it down, but now we are beginning to see renewed interest in formation of Quad and functioning as a unit. Your thoughts, sir, is now US also beginning to lean towards India again?
I have no idea what the United States is trying to do, because United States foreign policy has been as ambiguous and as ambivalent as one can think of on a day-to-day basis. Instead of Quad, they are spending tons and tons of time on negotiating the Iran deal in Vienna. Okay, they had the first meeting on Quad. Then after that, it soon dissipated. By way of, and then the vice president has had a meeting with the prime minister of India, again on the vaccine-related issues. So what's left? You have United States, which has become slightly passive, except for the issues on Taiwan. You have day in and day out U.S. generals coming and speaking about Taiwan. So the only two countries which are raising their flag is Australia and India, Scott Morrison and Prime Minister Modi. Suga has got his own problems. And Suga again is talking about Senkaku and Taiwan, not South China Sea. Okay. Then you have France, which has stepped in and conducted exercises and says this Indo-Pacific is an important component, will work very closely with Quad. Then you have UK, which has sent HMS Queen Elizabeth and says it will work with the Quad members. So you have France, you have UK, you have India, then you have Australia raising up. Have you seen anything from United States? No. United States is focused on Taiwan, not on South China Sea. They withdrew the ship, they sent the ship back, which is
Reagan.
Reagan. Yeah. So Reagan was sent back, right? So you can see that it is fairly lukewarm, very different to the Trump approach in terms of the regular meetings of the Quad and the 2+2. So
I'm sorry, go ahead, sir. I thought you're done. Yeah.
No, I'm done. I'm basically saying India is also saying, I'm a leader, but I'll watch and see what happens. I'll protect my territories. So this Indian Ocean and Indo-Pacific exercises that are going on is not stepping itself into South China Sea, but protecting the area around it.
And Indian foreign exchange reserves surged to a record high of $608 billion. We've been saying that it's been steadily going up, so it's a good sign. And Serum Institute is yet to receive raw material from United States to manufacture Novavax COVID-19 vaccine in India. If you remember, viewers, about a month ago we had mentioned this. US had taken a very interesting stand and then they changed their mind and they said that they were going to allow it, and looks like it has not yet left the shores of the United States. Any updates on this, sir?
No, I think Novavax, we again covered last week in DGI. They did not get the EUA, emergency use approval. So then they withdrew their application. They said they will have expedited trials conducted in India, and the Serum Institute was happy to work with Novavax to manufacture. So lo and behold, they go there, and what happens next? Raw materials is stalled. Remember, Novavax is also another one, is a low cost, low maintenance, and highly portable vaccine that can be used in a number of countries across a number of locations, rather than storage, transportation, all the kind of periphery that is required to transport vaccines. This again we covered in DGI. I hope that this will be resolved and Novavax can manufacture and can become part of the mainstream.
And now let's take a look at markets. The Dow falls more than 500 points to close its worst week since October, falling almost 7% for the year to finish at 8.77% down. Sir, I think I have the number wrong. Maybe you can correct me. The Dow is what, 34,000 now, or 33,000, below 33,000 now?
33,000 plus. We reported year to date its performance was around 15%. It has fallen 7%. Now year to date is at 8.77% as at Friday. S&P is holding its position. It was around 14 point, less than 15%. Its year to date is around 11.34. Annualized is around 24.6% because we have not fully finished the year. So I think the S&P is holding position. Dow is the one which is reliant very heavily on what you call return to economy types of stocks. And what Dow is witnessing, and the S&P has a lot of technology stocks in it. So what Dow is witnessing is the reverberations as a result of the latest interest rate announcement from the Fed. I'm sure that as time goes on, this will also normalize for the rest of the year. The forecast for Dow is between 9 and 11%, depending on the pundits who you speak to. So it's very much within the band, purely because of excess cash that is sitting within the system and economy returning back to normal.
With that, we bring today's segment to a close. We'll be back tomorrow bright and early. Please do subscribe to our channel, click the bell button, and also consider joining. We'll be back online at 9 p.m. IST or 11:30 a.m. EST on Ask Abhijit section, where your questions will be answered by Abhijit Iyer Mitra. Thanks for joining, and do tune in again for the AIM show. Namaskar, Sridharji. We'll be back tomorrow again, won't we?
Namaskar, thank you. Yes, we look forward to an exciting week. More news is coming in terms of market reactions, and we hope that there will be a resolution on the infrastructure bill, etc., etc. So a lot to look forward to.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.